Alright, welcome to my breakdown on how to get the Grandmaster speed killing time at Telos of under 2 minutes 30 seconds at 4000% enrage. I'll break down the rotation ability by ability, slowing down the clips if need be, and then I'll play the full speed kill at the end with light commentary. This was a brutally challenging Grandmaster kill, and I spent about 850 million coins in death costs going for this. Yeah, that really is nearly 400 attempts. Definitely some major skill issue on my part, but persistence paid off in the end. It has some pretty steep RNG requirements with crits, and it is at 4000% enrage, so it is very punishing. I think there's a legitimate argument that this is the hardest solo Grandmaster combat achievement in the game. Several of the group ones are no doubt more difficult, but this has to be up there for the soloable achievements. Anyway, let's get into the guide. Starting off with my preset in Relics, I'll be using Conservation of Energy, Fury of the Small, and Death Ward. Death Ward is literally a lifesaver at this high of an enrage. As for the presets, I actually have two presets for this kill. The first preset is my building preset at PVM Hub, and the second is the actual preset I'll use during the fight. I do this so that I can maximize the amount of food that I'm taking into the fight while still getting my full pre-build done. So in my pre-build preset, I'm wearing my melee gear with my Leng swords. We'll be building 6 to 7 Leng stacks before every single attempt. I have a Dragon Scimitar and a Dragon Battle Axe. We'll be using both of those special attacks on the dummy before we start kills. Dragon Scimitar is going to give us full accuracy, and Dragon Battle Axe is going to give us more damage. I have Necromancy weapons so that I can build 12 Necrosis and 3 Soul stacks before every attempt. I have an Overload and Weapon Poison so that I can apply both of those at the bank and omit them from my fight preset. I also have Quorum and Lantidime Incense Sticks to increase poison damage and increase poison duration respectively. I have Rune Pouches so that I can pre-apply Disruption Shield and Vengeance to myself while I'm building. Doing it early will allow them both to come off of cooldown and be used again early in the fight. I have a two-handed sword and a magic weapon. The fastest way to build Leng stacks is by setting the dummy to max hit mode, getting a crit buff with either Meteor Strike or Tsunami, and then spamming Dragon Claws. You could also just sit there AFK and auto-attack the dummy until you get enough stacks, but getting a crit buff with Tsunami or Meteor will be a little bit faster. So just to quickly demonstrate what your pre-build might look like, you want to set the dummy to max hit mode. I like using this far right dummy as it's closer to the bank chest, and I can load my fight preset at the end of my build. So once the dummy's on max hit mode, I'll use Meteor Strike and then start spamming Claws. If I still don't have enough Leng stacks and I need to get another crit buff, I'll use my Fusoa to use Tsunami and get a second crit buff, then just keep spamming more Dragon Claws. It's important that you never use Natural Instinct or Incendiary Shot while you're doing this, as we'll want to be using both of those on the actual Telos portion. You can, however, use Gricko during the pre-build to get back up to 100 adrenaline really quickly and spam even more claws. Now onto the actual fight preset. I'll be wearing my best melee gear with the Dragon Claw EOF and Cinderbane gloves. I have a two-handed crossbow equipped and Hydrix bolt so that I can stall Incendiary Shot and use Gricko. I have my Necromancy gear and an EOF with the tier 90 Death Guard stored inside. I have a Necromancy leg switch that has the Clear-Headed 4 and Turtling 4 perks to use during phases 4 and 5. I have a Ring of Death, which is a lifesaver on the final phase. Although I only got one Grandmaster kill, I did get about 20 kills in the 230 to 240 range, and I very rarely did not activate the Ring of Death on phase 5. Maybe 3 times out of 20 did I actually get to my barricade without activating Rod. I have Sticky Bombs in this preset, and you can sometimes use those in phase 4 to temporarily trap golems and give yourself a brief respite while dealing with the fonts. Honestly, the best case scenario with these is that you trap the golems on font 1, and you can soul split your abilities on Telos to get a little bit of HP back. Last thing of note is the Vitality Potion. We'll be using this on phase 1 and phase 5 to try and survive. Don't forget, this is at 4000% enrage, and it is really unforgiving, so this is essential. So there's all the preset information. Let's finally get into the kill now. Once you finish your pre-build and gotten 12 Necrosis, 3 Souls, and 6 plus Leng stacks, get back to 120 adrenaline and then use Dragon Scimitar and Dragon Battle Axe on the dummy. As I mentioned, I'm using a second preset for the actual fight, so I'm going to load that, surge over to the Adren Crystal, and then stall Incendiary Shot off the same dummy. Enter the Telos instance, maintain your stall with Darkness or Lord of Bones, but I'd recommend Darkness as having that active is tremendously powerful and can keep you alive during your attempts. I like using it right before I jump down, that way I ensure that my stall is still maintained and I'm not dilly-dallying too much either. It's important not to dilly-dally too much, as you want to have your DBA and your D-Simi buff for the duration of phase 1 and 2. Once you're in the instance though, place your dummy, release your Incendiary with Natural Instinct. Use Piercing Shot and then Gricko to get back to full adrenaline. Use Fury and then Berserk plus APOT. Chaos Roar the dummy, and then surge diagonally towards Telos. Stall your Dragon Claw, and in the next global cooldown, release the claw with another claw. Drink your Vitality Potion and follow that up with an Overpower. The Vitality Potion is important as it's possible and it's reasonably likely that Telos is going to break your initial Disruption Shield and then hit you again here. While you're under the effects of Berserk, it's critical that you use the Vitpot to survive. It's also not a bad thing if you do get hit hard here through the Vitpot, as that will proc your Vengeance, dealing good damage to Telos. Now after the Overpower, to finish the phase, the most powerful strat would be to surge to the corner right now and 4-tick Smoke Cloud with Gricko to get in a little bit of pre-phase damage. I and several others who've attempted this have reported consistency issues with this rot, however. It feels like 70% of the time, you'll still be about 2,000 damage short of the phasing point, unless you crit everything. I personally got fed up with that and didn't feel like the Smoke Cloud pre-phase Gricko was that important, so I've opted to always add in an extra ability here, finishing the phase with Sever before surging to the corner. So I mentioned both of these because objectively, the pre-phase Gricko is better. You benefit from the Smoke Cloud in the next few phases, you clear Smoke Cloud after your stall, which will come into play on phase 4, and you get in a little bit of pre-phase damage on phase 2. So objectively, that is better and more powerful, but Sever is more consistent and it doesn't cost you any time, so that's what I'd recommend. Release Claw, Claw, Overpower, Sever, Surge for phase 1. Phase 2. I always start by spamming my Prayer Potion here. This serves as an easy indicator on when you should attack Telos again. We'll be using Barge as our first ability this phase, and if you do it right away, it won't actually do any damage to Telos. Instead, if you wait 1 tick at the start of the phase, it will do damage, and damage is good. We like damage. If you spam the Prayer Potion, whenever you see your prayer points increase, that's the indicator that it's been 1 tick and you're safe to use Barge. As I barge, I like to equip my Necromancy Nexus so that my defensives like Resonance will be a little bit stronger in the later phases. I'll also reapply Disruption Shield if necessary. It really is important to have that active to survive while you're still under the effects of Berserk here. After the barge though, use Assault, and then I like to start walking into this diamond texture on the floor, so that I'm in a little bit more of a favorable position to dive to the jump spot at the end of the phase. After the assault, use Dragon Claw and then Leng Spec. Getting those Leng stacks during the pre-build is essential so that Leng does enough damage here to phase, and also won't cost you any adrenaline at all. In fact, if you're still under crit buff here, you'll profit adrenaline, which is always great. As you cast Leng Spec, dive to the jump spot and equip your Necromancy gear, then summon your conjures. I always click mine, so sometimes I'll be missing a piece or two and can't equip my prayer fast enough, but if you're a macroer and or you're just better than me at the game, try and equip everything before summoning the conjures, so that you get more benefit from the armor's per piece worn set effect. Phase 3. You'll see I equip the rest of my armor, swap tier 99 prayers, and equip the right EOF. And then I'll start the phase right away with Split Soul. After Split Soul, use Death Skulls and pray that it crits. It really makes such a big difference when it crits. Mine didn't end up critting here, but that's fine. Follow up the skulls with Bloat, Soul Sap, and Finger of Death. The red beam should spawn in right about now, so surge or dive into the beam. In the beam, use 4-stack Volley, and then use Touch of Death, then Soul Sap to build stacks and finish the phase. Those stacks will come into play on the next phase. Dive to the jump spot. I ended up having a close beam here, so I just walked and still missed it by a tile. Phase 4. Start the phase by commanding Zombie to explode him, and then use tier 90 spec on Telos. That should phase him, so turn around and surge into the first font. Now, the rotation in the fonts don't need to be perfectly precise this phase, so instead of going ability by ability, let's talk about the big picture for each font. First and foremost, you want to survive. What I found to be most comfortable was to use Resonance on the first font, Reflect in the second font, and Devotion in the third font. So after I res, I'm wary of the red golems, and I'll use my Clear-Headed Anticipate. That way I won't get stunned. At some point in this first font, I'll also want to use the Cease ability. That's going to clear Smoke Cloud from the stalls in phase 1. If you don't use Cease now, or at some other point during the kill, when you go to click on Telos, your character is going to try and use Smoke Cloud on him, costing you a global cooldown and potentially screwing up your kill. While you have time attacking the golems, you'll also want to build up some stacks, so try and use a Touch of Death on one of these golems, then Threads of Fate and Soul Sap. We will be using Volley on Telos after this font is charged. The last thing I did here was to use Invoke Death. We'll have to do this at some point in this phase. Some players like doing it on the third and final font, but by that point, my nerves are usually pretty high, so I always prefer to do it in the first font during my attempts. So that's a lot of goals just for this first font. Let's quickly reiterate those. Survive by either using Resonance or Reflect. At some point, use Cease. You can cancel Cease right away, but it's just important that you use it. Use Touch, Threads, and Sap to build stacks. Optionally, use Invoke Death now. Once you see the message that Telos is preparing to use an Anima Bomb, you then use Volley and Tier 95 spec to phase Telos. Surge, Dive, and Surge quickly into Font 2. In my opinion, this was by far the scariest font and scariest part of the fight to survive. Again, there's a lot going on here, so our goals are to dismiss our previous conjures by unequipping our offhand necro weapon and re-equipping it. Typically, I'll equip Excalibur, then re-equip the Lantern. I'll summon new conjures, and again our first goal is going to be to survive. I personally preferred using Reflect on this second font. Some players, however, like using Resonance and Preparation on this one. I also would like to use Excalibur and eat a lot of food here. Our next goal in this font is to use Touch of Death one more time to get to 8 Necrosis stacks. We then want to use Command on our Ghost, so we benefit from Haunted for the rest of the kill. Then we'll step out of the font once it's fully charged, so that we're close enough where we can attack Telos. Make sure to use Anticipate or Freedom so that you don't get stunned when it comes time to attack. Use Command Skeleton early, and then when you see the message that Telos is ready to launch the bomb, use Command Zombie to explode him. Alternatively, you could use Command Phantom Guardian, but that's slightly less damage. And the zombie won't be that helpful going forward for the rest of the fight, so that's what I preferred using. After the zombie explodes, use Tier 90 spec to phase Telos. Now it's important to surge and dive to the final font as quickly as you can, because every second is precious. Now in my actual Grandmaster kill, I ended up signing on the third font and losing all of my adrenaline, not doing the ideal rotation, so I don't think that's a very good example. Instead, I'm going to cut to a 230 flat kill I did, where I didn't sign. We'll still play the kill where I sign at the end of the video, but just for the sake of this example, let's do a quick cut. Again, as for the other two fonts, the first goal is to survive. So first off, equip your Ring of Death. Then your best option is to use Devotion here, as there are now many golems on you. Depending on how you've got them positioned, which can be hard to do optimally in the heat of the moment, you're potentially getting surrounded on all sides, so better safe than sorry. Negate all that melee damage with Devotion, and just deal with the font damage. If you haven't already applied Deathmark to Telos, do so now. Use Anticipation or Freedom so you don't get stunned, and then use Blood Siphon. Since you're surrounded, this is going to heal you a lot, and can often get you back up to full HP before phase 5. To finish phase 5, if you have 2 soul stacks, use Volley on Telos when you see the message about the bomb. If you don't have enough soul stacks, use a supercharged auto attack. That should trigger the death mark, finishing the phase instantly. Phase 5. Spam Split Soul and Surge so that you use both of those abilities right away at the start of the phase. Pray that you get a side beam and no red golems. Use Reflect and drink your Adrenaline Potion. Dive into the Adrenaline Beam, use Natural Instinct, and then follow that up with Death Skulls. Remember to drink your Vitality Potion at some point so that you can survive until Barricade. Use Living Death, then Death Skulls again. It's pretty likely that you'll Rod proc at some point here, but the good news is it's now time to Barricade. After you've barricaded, you're safe to equip your Reaver's Ring and your Raziel Pants again if you wished. To finish off the kill, use Finger of Death 2 times in a row. Then use Invoke Death, surge and dive into the red beam, and use Tier 90 spec. It should die here. If not, you can add in a Tier 95 spec and hope that you had enough time save elsewhere in the kill that this will still give you the Grandmaster speed. Ideally, it will die on the Tier 90 though. So there you have it. That was really brutal to go for, but if you did all that, Telos should be dead in under 2 minutes 30 seconds, granting you the Grandmaster Speedkiller achievement. So there was the breakdown portion of the video. Let's go ahead and look at the full speed kill now. So at Wars, after I build up all my stacks, 6 or more stacks of Lang, 12 Necrosis, and 3 Souls, I'll use Dragon Battle Axe and D-Simi on the dummy. I'll get my fight preset, then surge over the crystal and install Incendiary Shot. I'll start the instance, maintain my stall by using Darkness, and then once I jump down to the arena, I'll place my dummy, release my Incendiary with Natural Instinct, Piercing Shot, and Gricko to get to full Adrenaline, Fury, Berserk, Chaos Roar. Surge into Telos, stall Claw, release Claw, and then Overpower. Finish the phase with Sever and surge into the corner. And now I'll be spamming my Spiritual Prayer so that I know the timing to barge. Once my prayer goes up, I'll barge, assault, walk towards the diamond, use Dragon Claw, and finish the phase with Lang Spec. dive to the jump spot, equip my necro gear, and summon my conjures. At the start of the next phase, I'm using Split Soul, Death Skulls, Bloat, Soul Sap, Finger of Death, going into the red beam using Touch, Volley, and building some more stacks with Soul Sap, then just making my way over to the jump spot. At the start of phase 4, I'll explode my zombie, then use tier 90 spec and surge into the font. Now I'm just trying to survive, so I'll use Resonance, try and build some stacks, and I'll also aim to use Cease at some point here. When I can, I'll use Threads of Faith and Soul Sap so that I have enough stacks to do a big volley on Telos, and when I see the message that he's ready to fire an Anima Bomb, I'll use Volley, then tier 95 spec. Quickly making my way over to the second font where, again, I'll just try and survive, eat a lot of food, summon new conjures, use Reflect, build some more Necrosis stacks with Touch, do all the commands that I want to do, so Command Ghost, target Telos, Command Skeleton, Command Zombie, and finish him off with tier 90 spec. After this font, I'll very quickly surge into the final font. Unfortunately, I sign in this kill, but the goals are still to survive and at some point use Blood Siphon to get the full HP. Luckily, I managed to salvage this kill. I built enough adrenaline with basic attacks, managed to have just enough HP, and still finished off the phase. Now at the start of this phase, I use Split Soul and Surge into the boss, then since I don't have full adrenaline to use Natural Instinct right away, instead I go for Reflect, then dive into the beam, still drink my A-Pot, at which point I can use Natural Instinct. Use Death Skulls, Living Death, Skulls again, Rod procs here, then I use Barricade, and from here the kill is pretty much free. Use Touch of Death 2 times, Invoke Death, dive search the red beam, and finish the boss off with tier 90 spec. And there you have it, the boss is dead in under 2 minutes 30 seconds. That was a really good feeling for me to get that one done. Definitely something I didn't fully believe I was capable of getting until actually going for it. I like to think I'm an alright player, but not a great player. So getting a big Grandmaster combat achievement like this done was a really big achievement for me that I was really happy with. Anyway, there you have it. That was my video breaking down how I got the Grandmaster speed killing time at Telos. If you enjoy high level PvM content like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel as I'll be making videos like this for every Grandmaster combat achievement in the game. Share this video with a friend, leave me a comment, thanks for watching, and see you next time.